Welcome to the Modern Savvy CPA, where financial expertise meets the cutting edge of digital age. I'm Sharon, your host, a certified public accountant, here to guide you through the intricate web of numbers and regulations, offering a fresh perspective of the ever-evolving world of finance. So today we're going to discuss a few money traps that keep you from being wealthy. A lot of these things we've heard of and we've known. It's just that we need to be reminded and we need to be mindful of these things. That's why your money mindset is really important to your money habits. So you want to make sure that you think about your mindset and you have the right mindset. If you can't change your mindset, you'll keep going back on that hamster wheel that we're always on and we're riding the wheel and we don't think we can get off, but we're not giving ourselves control of getting off or not. So we need to be mindful of what we're doing and realize that we have a lot more control to change things in our lives than we think we do. So I'm going to go through about 9 different topics that will affect you, that keeps you from being wealthy. These are the things that you need to change. So typically, people in the middle class, let's say the middle class is us, right? We are usually the people who have saved for our kids' college, have some disposable income. We have a plan for retirement, but that doesn't mean we're financially stable, because a lot of us are not financially stable. We're trying, but we're leaving things on the table that could help us to live a more financially well life. So we definitely need to be thinking about and being mindful of it. So, the fact is that usually in some of these kinds of things, one of the things is debt. So yes, in a middle class household, you might have your mortgage, you have your auto loans. Hopefully, you don't have credit card debt. If you have credit card, you're paying it off at the end. If you're using it right and you're using it reasonable, because you have to remember, credit card is not an extension of your income. It is just a mode of payment that you need to pay off. And like I said, you pay off your credit card when you get paid. These individuals, if you're one of these people, then it's common that, you fall in some financial pitfalls, some money traps that keep you from achieving true wealth. There's a fine line. We're called the middle class because there is a fine line. In most countries, there is no middle class, but in America, it's, if you're living okay, you're considered a middle class, and it's one of the few countries that you have such a large group of people that are considered middle class. But being middle class does not mean that we're not struggling with our financial health. That we have that fine line and we need to be thinking about it. No matter how much money you have, if it's not managed properly, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to be working for you. You're going to be the slave to the money. So you need to make sure that you're managing it properly. So here are, so we want to make sure that we're looking at what our debt is and what we're doing and how we're looking at it. So let's say number 1. Let's talk about number 1. Number 1 is trying to keep up with the Joneses. I am sure you've heard this before. I do tax returns for a living, and what the Joneses are showing you on the outside, it is definitely not what's on the inside. So you might be seeing people with beautiful cars or wonderful clothes and all these different things that you might be looking, that you think is a wealthy behavior. But those are the Joneses, and the Joneses are only looking at what's on the outside. You do not need to be looking at what's on the outside if you are not comfortable and financially well on the inside. And trust me, I do tax returns for a living, and this does not have being comfortable with your money situation or your financial situation has very little to do with your comfort level with your money situation or financial situation or your wellness. Have very little to do with your actual salary that you make. The comfort has to do with your mindset and how much control you have over your money. So if you're keeping up with the Joneses because you're buying an expensive car that depreciates over time, that's not an investment. A car might be a necessity to have a car. It becomes a luxury if you buy one that is over your budget or is at your budget, and it's not just a necessity, it becomes a luxury. Taking out student debt for degrees that doesn't have solid financial future. You have to make sure that you look at your degree that you're doing, what marketable degree. You don't just want to say, okay, my son is going to this school, or my daughter's going to this school, or I'm going to this school, or I went to this school, and then you're doing a degree in something that you're not going to make any money when you come out, or you're not looking at what your debt is. And my last few videos, we went through student loan and student debt and how you need to take that into account when you're choosing what you're going to be doing for your future. Buying property that's simply not what is too expensive for you. That's what you call those people house rich but poor otherwise. So you want to make sure that these are all things that has to do with keeping up with the Joneses. You're being socially influenced and pressured into doing these things that are real concerns for many people. So you want to make sure that the ones that often lead those extravagant life does not mean that they could keep up with those appearances. Those are just appearances. So it doesn't matter what things look like on the outside. You want to make sure that the inside is clean and you're comfortable with what you're doing and you're looking at your overall future. So the problem with that leads to, when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses are debt because they're overspending. They're not, when this happens, it's harder and harder to achieve long-term goals, to invest for the future, to build wealth. You want to get off that hamster wheel, and you want to make sure that you're looking at making financially sound decisions, and not worrying about what things look like on the outside. Be good with what it is in the inside. Spending without saving or investing is another trap that many people have. It's a money trap that you think that you think your income is what generates wealth, but no, income is not. Your income really has nothing to do with wealth. It's what you're investing in, such as a home ownership. If you neglect home ownership, you want to make sure that, if you have a home, you're able to not neglect the maintenance of a home, repairing a home, be a responsible homeowner. Homeowners can mismanage their homes too because they end up not having anything. I know during the homeowner crisis, the home real estate crisis in the 2005, 2006, 2007, a lot of people refinanced and took the money out of their house and went shopping to keep up with the Joneses. That is not responsible home ownership. You want to that is a debt trap. That is a real debt trap because your house is no longer a asset for you, because that house is the asset is the net value of it, is the value of the house minus any debt that you owe. That is what your value in the house is. So if you refinance that house up to the wazoo, when it went up and the market goes down, that's why most people went upside down in their mortgages, and they had to file for short sale, or it was repossessed, or whatever it is, foreclosed on, and those type of things. So you want to make sure that you're being a responsible homeowner if you are part of our middle class, and you want to make sure that you're saving for those expenses. Because if you're not saving for those expenses, your financial security is not going to be well sound, and you're going to end up, your net worth is going down because you're taking out of your home, you're taking out of your asset, you're bleeding that asset. The other things that you need to think about is that you don't need to rely on yourself. Building wealth has to do with not just yourself on what you need. rely on other people around you for knowledge, for partnerships, for bartering, for experiences, for ideas. There's a plethora of information out there on how you can invest wisely, how you can use your money better. On top of that, you can seek the information from a financial advisor, a financial coach, a certified planner, a CPA like me who does tax planning and business planning and financial planning to help you reach and achieve your goals. So you want to make sure that you seek the help if you feel like you're on that hamster wheel. You don't want to do that. Do not fail taking advantage of investment. You want to make sure that you get literate, you're financial literate about investing. Learn about the different avenues of investing. Moving from the middle class to the wealthy, or having wealth or building wealth, has to do with investing your money. Your salary alone and pinching and saving is not going to have you live a good life and still build your wealth, because ideally, you don't just want to sit there and build wealth. What are you doing while you want to live while you're building your wealth? Big proponent. I live while I build my wealth, because it's no reason for me to sit here, skimp and save, and then I'll live later. No, I want to live, but I want to make smart money decisions so I can go ahead and continue to build my wealth over time. Because investing is one of the best ways to do that. Invest your money wisely so you're living while you're building your wealth. You don't want to invest in. You want to be responsible in what you're investing. You want to diversify with your portfolio when you're investing. You don't want to invest in one thing. You always want to have knowledge on what you're doing. Knowledge is power, and you want to understand diversification and how to invest your portfolio, whether it's real estate, whether it's ETFs, whether it's the stock market, whether it's a small business. You want to make sure that you are doing good research and understand the assets that you're invested in and what the growth potential is, what the risks are, those type of things. So financial literacy is really important on that. Relying on credit cards and other expensive debt is a total trap that we face today. This is a common behavior that does have to do with, what lifestyle you're affording. If you are relying on credit cards or high interest debt to live your life, then something is wrong. This not only will you not be able to build your wealth, you are creating a hole that you're putting yourself into, because you're paying interest for that dress that you bought at Macy's. You paid $50 for that dress, but at 24% interest that you're going to be paying it off, and God knows what, it might cost you double by the time you finish paying it off. So if you're going to buy something with your credit card, make sure you pay it off and you're not being charged interest, because then it doesn't worth you buying it. It's even better to buy it retail than to buy something on your credit card that you're not able to afford to pay off at the end. That's a big trap. So you want to make sure that whatever you're buying, if you're buying it with your credit card, you're able to pay that off when you get paid, so that you are not paying interest on whatever it is that you're buying, because it would be better for you to delay buying that product or that whatever it is and plan on buying your products. Having a plan on when you want to buy something. Anticipate when things are happening. Anticipate what you need to do. One of the traps that a lot of people sometimes, they don't think that they could own a own home. They're always renting. So one of the things that I always say is, when you rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. 100% of the money that you spend on wealth goes on building someone else's wealth. It's not yours. Rent is an entire expense, and it contributes to nothing of your wealth. So you want to make sure when you can buy a home, you buy a home that you can afford. You start somewhere. I am on my 5th home as an adult. I started with a very small condo, and now I'm in a 3,200 square foot house. So you want to be able to start where you can afford and then move up as things get better. Because when you start off somewhere, when you're buying a home, you can real estate. Most of the time, if you're doing it well, it does appreciate, and once it appreciates, you can level up to eventually getting that dream home that you really want to do, because you've invested well in your home and your real estate. And like I said, I'm on my 5th home. So no, I couldn't afford to have my dream home at first, but I'm working towards that. And if you don't start somewhere, you're never going to get there. You can't move from mom's house to your dream home. That's not possible. One of the biggest issue that I see also is people thinking that they need to have a high salary. Like I said, your salary has nothing to do with your wealth mindset. You know, you having a high salary, what I've noticed that people, when they make more money, they spend more money. They get into the wealthy money, the rich people mindset, and they think that they can spend more, and they end up spending a lot more because they're not tracking and tracing, and they're not looking at what they're doing to allocate whatever they're making more on in the proper places, and they end up sometimes more in debt than anything. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're not doing that. Having a long-term plan. Always have goals, always have plan. Financial money mindset is important. Financial literacy is important. Your long-term goals. I always say, when you're saving, you save for a purpose. There's no end-all, be-all when it comes to saving for a purpose. Always gives you a motivation. You always remind you as to why you're doing something and what your future goals are. It helps you to make future goals. It forces you to do that. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Remember that in no way being rich makes you wealthy. So you could be making 6 figures and you are a rich person because you're making 6 figures. But what you have left in your pocket, what your net worth is. Your net worth is the assets you have minus any type of debt or liability, and your net worth is what's going to determine if you are wealthy or not. So not your salary, but your net worth. So that is the end of this session. And this is Sharon, the Modern Savvy CPA. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, feel free to give me a follow to get updated on new and upcoming episodes, and listen in every Tuesday and Thursday, where I teach you smart money habits so you can make better money choices with a financial goal focus.